Camouflage and the military have always gone hand in hand. Today, it's easy to think of camo as standard issue, digital patterns and muted colors, all designed to disappear into the background. But it hasn't always looked this way, and according to author Roy Behrens, camouflage has never been just about clothing or color, but about perception.
Camouflage is always a kind of partnership. It's a back and forth between vision, the person who is looking, and then the appearance of what they're looking at.
Behrens has been studying and writing about camouflage for more than 5 decades. With a background in graphic design, he's part of a long line of artists who have shaped how camouflage works and evolves. In fact, artists were among the first to bring camouflage into modern warfare and took their cues from nature. They looked at owls that blend into tree bark or Arctic hares who turn white with the seasons. Behrens says humans have used camouflage since prehistoric times, but it wasn't until World War I that militaries began to adopt it out of necessity.
It was so effective that they were sinking just the most incredible number of British ships in 1 week. And there was a great panic, and especially for England because it's an island. And so if they don't grow their own food or if they don't get shipments from other countries, they're really in trouble. And things were not looking good for them in terms of winning the war. And so they decided that what they needed to do was to apply camouflage, of course, to their own ships. Then hopefully it would make it harder for the U-boats to aim at them.
German U-boats were sinking British ships at an alarming rate. Hiding at sea was nearly impossible because the ocean never held still. So the British tried a different approach. Instead of making ships invisible, they tried to make them confusing. Enter Norman Wilkinson, an artist who proposed something radical.
What happened is that they discovered that if they could paint the surface of these British ships with confusing patterns, so that from a distance, and you have to realize this is from a couple of miles away, and they're looking through a periscope, and the water is maybe pretty turbulent, and maybe the wind is blowing, maybe a lot of waves, maybe the moisture is fogging up the periscope. Somehow, they have to decide exactly where is that British ship located, and which direction exactly is it headed? And then finally, what speed is it going at? And if they can't determine those 3 factors, then the U-boats are going to have great difficulty in firing a torpedo accurately.
The British military took on the idea. In 1917, they painted their ships with Wilkinson's abstract designs and colors. They called it dazzle camouflage, where no 2 ships looked alike.
It was difficult for the British Navy to accept the strategy because they had been painting all of their ships a sort of battleship gray, and they thought that that was the best camouflage for ships. But it turned out it wasn't, and when they instead thought that they would try these highly disruptive, colorful patterns, boy, that was a difficult thing for them to accept.
This marked a sharp break from tradition. Gray and black warships gave way to stripes, angles, and bold color. The designs drew public curiosity and military skepticism, but it worked. When the U.S. entered the war, it adopted dazzle camouflage too and quickly expanded it. The Navy turned to artists called camoufleurs to reimagine its ships. Within 8 months, more than 1,000 U.S. vessels were painted in abstract patterns.
Now, you have to realize that this is happening at a time when the American, the British, and the French public are all very excited about modern art, which had premiered in this country in 1913, just before the war, at the Armory Show. And they were really puzzled by things like Cubism and Futurism and stuff like that. And when they looked at these dazzle-painted ships, a lot of the people in newspapers said, oh, those look like they were done by a drunken cubist.
When it came to soldiers' uniforms, the U.S. opted for plain khaki and green fabric during World War I. For years, artists campaigned for the military to start using colors found in nature to better protect troops. During the late 1800s, a well-known American artist named Abbott Henderson Thayer pushed this idea forward.
And he said, you should stop using khaki, meaning one color, sort of sand-colored uniforms. You should stop issuing those for ground soldiers. You might think it's inconspicuous, but really it's simply the same idea of applying a nondescript gray or brown to a plain surface. And he said, it doesn't make the soldier less visible. It actually, to some extent, makes them more conspicuous. And he said the reason for that is because here they are out there, and if any kind of sunlight shines on them, it begins to make shadows on their bodies and on their faces and stuff. So then they become quite discernible. And he said what you would better do would be the same kind of thing that is happening with the camouflage ship. You should break them up.
Thayer's ideas didn't fully take hold until the Vietnam War, when dense terrain made camouflage a necessity. From there, military camo became more systematic and more precise. Bright colors and abstract designs faded. In their place came small, pixelated patterns meant to break up the human form from a distance. These designs are harder to detect by the eye and by night vision technology. Today, camouflage is designed for more than fabric. It factors in drones, thermal imaging, and digital surveillance, but the end goal remains the same. Who knows what camo may look like 20, 30, or 100 years from now? You can find more info about this topic and our guest, Roy Behrens, at our website, viewpointsradio.org. Follow Viewpoints Radio on Instagram, X, and Facebook. This story was written by Annabelle Rivera and Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jay Silvers. I'm Gary Price.
The In Good Health podcast gives listeners the latest news on what's trending in health, science, technology, and more, featuring medical experts who break down complex topics in a way that's easy to understand.
The mice that ate the salmon that had been fed the soybean meal diet got obese, so it's not just what you eat, but it's what the thing you eat has eaten that's important.
The In Good Health podcast, available wherever you find your favorite podcast and at ingoodhealthpodcast.org.